All right, everyone, so we're going to get started. Welcome to the ESS Fall Tech Exchange series. This is the second to last webinar in our fall series. The last one will be in 2 weeks and will be on 3D GIS. So hopefully you can attend that one as well. This one is going to be on the internship program here at Exceptional Software. So I'm going to let JD, who manages that program, take it away. Go ahead, JD.
Thank you, Bill. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for the ESS Tech Exchange. Today, I will be presenting on the ESS Internship Program. First, I'll be speaking about how the ESS internship got started, and then I'll be talking about our philosophy on what makes a successful internship experience and what our expectations are from potential intern candidates. Then I'll move on to a little bit of a technical discussion of the 2020 Summer Internship Program projects. Also address a little bit about how COVID threw a wrench into our plans and how we dealt with that. And then we'll close out with a little bit of the feedback we received on the 2020 summer program, and then what we're looking to do in the 2021 summer program. I'll be happy to take questions, but please hold on to them till the very end of the presentation. Alrighty, so here we go. So ESS intern program history. So initially, at least from my perspective, ESS started the internship experience in 2019. We took on 2 summer interns to help us out with a research and development effort. At the time, we were investing in blockchain technology to provide a secure server log collection capability that takes advantage of the enhanced security that a blockchain provides. At the time, the internship program wasn't very formal. It was basically an opportunity to take on these 2 students, and so we just kind of ran with it. However, the experience from that summer provided a solid base that we would expand on later in that fall and that winter of that year. By Christmas of 2019, we had a plan in place to expand our internship program and build it into something that would repeat every summer. And the goal was to make sure that our interns that we take on every year are getting the most out of their time with ESS. Also during that time, we started to outreach with the local universities in Maryland, pretty much all of them, UMBC, Towson, Maryland, Johns Hopkins, so on and so forth. And we started building relationships with those schools, working with their career centers, are equivalent to basically sign up, start a relationship, and get that we have internships out there so that students could come find out about us. We officially announced to everybody that the internship program was a thing at the beginning of the new year of 2020. And not too much longer after that, we started speaking with interested candidates. Funnily enough, I was in the middle of scheduling in-person interviews when the pandemic happened. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but it was definitely not something we had planned on when we were putting this program together in 2019. And what we ended up doing, because of all the COVID craziness, was having a virtual internship. And so for summer of 2020, we had a completely remote work internship program. We took on 4 candidates, or 4 interns this summer, and it turned out to be a great success. And since then, we took the feedback that we got from the interns and have been making improvements and adjustments to the program to make sure that, we can handle both in-person internships should that be the case. I'm not going to try to predict the future here, 6 months from now, but so that we can handle in-person internships, and if we need to be virtual again, then we want to be ready for that as well. So the team, the internship program is run by a few of us here. Myself, JD Broussard, I'm normally the IT manager here, but I also have taken the lead role with the internship program. Assisting me is Bill Dickinson, who's normally a director of technology, Sydney Lefevre, HR generalist, and Jacqueline Spiegel, the director of organizational development. So together we all work to make sure that we're addressing all of the concerns of the interns, making sure that we're meeting all the concerns of the business, all that good stuff. And so when you communicate with the internship program, these are the four people that you're really speaking to. So what were the founding principles of the internship program? When we were founding the internship program, we based it on 3 principles. The main core objective is that the internship is to provide a meaningful experience for the interns. It's our desire that the interns gain real work experience to set them up for success post-graduation. But we also want them to be challenged and to learn the tools of the trade. The second objective of the internship program is to have the project support our core business and needs of our customers by applying new technologies and solutions to solve hard problems. And finally, with the internship program, we wanted to be agile. And so as part of that, we collect a lot of feedback, we iterate quickly, and we make sure we're addressing issues as they come up or implementing new ideas as they make sense. And also as a personal side, sort of the belief, my personal belief, I guess, with the internship program is I was fortunate to have an internship opportunity in this industry when I was at college at UMBC. I worked for a couple summers, and it provided me with a super different and super awesome education that you sort of don't get in the classroom. And through that internship experience, I got to work with mentors that were very helpful, and they provided me with a lot of unique perspectives and useful advice for getting started in my career. And basically, my feeling is like this was a super critical thing when I was getting started out as a software engineer in my career, and I want to be able to give back and provide that same experience for people who are in college right now. So, if you're an internship, what should you expect essentially from the program? The primary focus will be on the summer project. The projects are designed in conjunction with ESS technical staff to ensure that the projects provide value to the business. We also want to have interns to have the opportunity to get out in front of all ESS employees by contributing a blog post to one of our monthly newsletters while they're with us. By having more visibility to our employees, we hope to foster mentoring relationships with those who are outside of the direct project work. It also provides an opportunity for interns to work on marketing themselves and finding their voice. And then finally, towards the end of the internship, we ask that interns create a final presentation that summarizes their project, what they personally accomplished and learned, and also to provide feedback on their internship experience as a whole. The final presentation is presented to the ESS executive team and shared out with the rest of the company. And last but not least at all, we should expect that the intern should have fun. We don't want to overwhelm interns, and we want to see them succeed. The experience should be rewarding, and having a fun environment to learn, break things, and discover things about themselves goes a long way towards having a good time. So, you're a college student, but what are the criteria for the ESS internship program? It's meant to be a technical internship. So as such, we're looking for we're looking for students who are currently in a STEM major, such as engineering, cybersecurity, computer science, and others. However, if you're seeking an internship, but you're not in a traditional STEM major, make us a strong pitch and you'll be considered. We definitely want to hear from you. When you're applying to the ESS internship program, we ask that you provide a transcript from your current university. Part of this is because we do require that a minimum GPA of 3.0, but we're also looking to see where you are in the progress of your degree and what classes you've taken so far as part of your major. This sort of gives us a better understanding of what your knowledge currently is, and so that we can identify a good project and basically set you up for success for you. And last but not least, finally, due to the nature of our industry, we ask that you are a US citizen. So before I talk about the summer 2020 internship program, I wanted to talk a little bit about what happened right before it started. Basically, we had, as everybody knows, a unique situation and a global pandemic happened. And when we were designing the program and the projects, we kind of considered the ability to allow remote work as needed to provide flexibility. There's the case where, you are working on, taking classes over the summer and we want to give you time to do that kind of stuff. But the idea was to have everybody be in the office the majority of the time. With the pandemic, that was no longer possible. So we had to figure out, could we run this program virtually? And the answer to that question wasn't so clear initially. In our industry, remote work is not really a thing. And at least personally, I have, no real experience working remotely, as a full-time position kind of thing. So there was definitely a lot of a learning curve there to figure out, how does remote work work? Another challenge with the summer internship was with the lack of office, in-person interaction. How do we teach and promote the soft skills that are necessary to succeed in the workplace? For some of our intern candidates, this internship would be the first job, in their career field. And working in a professional environment is very different from a schooling one. Like, for example, a lot of times you get an assignment, and unless it's specifically a group assignment, you're expected to work, kind of on your own. But that's not really how it works in the professional world. And so, not only did we not have a chance to really, not only did we have not have the opportunity to meet with our interns because of the pandemic, we were basically in the middle. I was in the middle of scheduling in-person interviews, and then the stay-at-home order was issued. So we kind of were like, well, I guess we'll just continue to do this over the phone. But basically, we worked most of the summer, and I hadn't met any of the interns, which is something that I just felt was very weird, and was definitely, not expected, I guess. But while there were these challenges, they were not insurmountable. We had developed an initial version 1.0 plan on how to conduct the internship virtually, and we built in a 2-week feedback cycle once the internship, got underway, once it started. Every 2 weeks, we would have a review, figure out what's working, what's not working, and basically come up with an action plan to address any issues that were happening or to make things better, or, basically to react to what's happening. The other question that we weren't quite sure about was, now that the internship was virtual, would the candidates still be interested in participating? But thankfully, everybody that we were working with at the time was on board with the idea. And so we were able to move forward with the candidates we selected. So finally, we selected our 4 interns for the class of 2020. First, from the University of Colorado Boulder, we had Jenna Buto. She's a mathematics major with a track in computation and currently scheduled to graduate in 22. From American University, and rejoining us for her second summer, we had Alexandra Cohen, who's majoring in justice and law with a concentration in terrorism and security studies and a minor in information and systems technology. From my alma mater, UMBC, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, we had Eric Stanford, a computer science student with a minor in biological science. And from the University of Maryland, we had Shelby Waltman, who was in the information systems program with a specialty in cybersecurity. So a very awesome, talented class of interns, and we were very fortunate to get to work with these 4 students. So once we had selected our intern candidates, they were broken up into teams and basically assigned to projects. The first team was the blockchain team, and to build a blockchain prototype. And I'll go into a little bit of technical discussion of each of the projects after this, but and then the other team was the cybersecurity team. Alex Cohen and Shelby Waltman worked together on that project, and I'll talk about the cybersecurity program, our project after the blockchain one. So let's dive into the blockchain project. The main objective of this project was to build a full stack prototype blockchain application. The purpose of this application is to provide a blockchain-backed system to enable secure transfers of data between traditionally air-gapped networks. The front end is a web application that is presented to users that allows them to submit the transfer request. The transfer request then moves through a workflow where it must be approved by an auditor. The middleware of the application handles all the requests from the front end and talks to the blockchain or database as necessary. As part of this effort, because we were partnering with IBM Blockchain Group at the time, we used the IBM Blockchain platform to as the provider for all of the blockchain pieces that we need. A secondary objective of the project was to evaluate the training material that we assembled for new blockchain developers. Part of our blockchain efforts as a company is education for new developers. Basically, blockchain is a very new technology and can be a little bit difficult to wrap your head around, especially with all of the different types of blockchains out there and the prevalence of cryptocurrency, which is not exactly the type of blockchains we're working with. And so we were basically taking in 2 developers who had zero background knowledge on blockchain, and they made a great guinea pigs to basically say, to go through our training material and to see if they could understand it, it made sense, and it got them to be productive developers. So as a part of that goal too, they evaluated the material, but they also wrote wiki articles that covered the gaps in the reference material that we gave them. And as they were working through different issues that came up when they were working on the prototype, they also created troubleshooting articles and different techniques to debug, that kind of stuff, and got it all documented so that for the next new developers that come on, that we have a bigger knowledge base to present to them. And so the final goal, the final deliverable, was to have by the end of the summer enough functionality in the prototype to demonstrate a secure transfer moving through the entire workflow and being able to visually show and prove that that is the case. So I'll talk a little bit about the tech stack we used here, some of the technologies that we were using to develop the application. We made the decision to go fully JavaScript, and so that it's being used essentially at every level of the application. Part of the reason for that was to keep it a little bit simpler, so that we weren't kind of overwhelming the interns by throwing JavaScript at the front end and then a different language in the middleware and then Go in the the blockchain or something like that. So it's all JavaScript. It all works, and they didn't have to pick up multiple programming languages in order to get to work on the prototype. For the front end, we used React.js, which is a web application framework, alongside the general browser standards of HTML5 and CSS3. The React application communicated with the middleware through Express APIs, and then there was additional Node.js code that would interact with the blockchain or interact with the database as necessary, completing functions such as logging into the application, retrieving, updating, editing requests, stuff like that. On the back end, we used a MongoDB, which we used to store some application data and metadata, such as user sessions and application activity. And then finally, the blockchain component, which is at the same level as the database because they kind of function similarly. We used the IBM blockchain platform, as I mentioned earlier, and using the IBM blockchain platform, developed a prototype network, blockchain network, and developed smart contracts that we deployed out onto that network. And the purpose of the smart contracts was to store and update request and user information so that there was a provable record and a secure record of the transfers that were taking place. In addition to some of the programming languages and technologies, we also used several tools to assist with the development and also to run the application components. For version control, we used Git. Specifically, we had a GitHub a private GitHub that we used for all version control. All programming was done in Visual Studio Code, which has super awesome, rich plugins ecosystem. So there were, Node.js plugins. There are IBM provides a plugin for their IBM blockchain platform, which is immensely helpful for developing smart contracts and for testing them. Without having that IBM Visual Studio Code add-in, testing blockchain changes quickly would have been a little bit difficult. It's definitely not the most intuitive thing. And so part of that IBM blockchain Visual Studio Code plugin, it relies on spinning up Docker images, which create the development blockchain network. Additionally, we used a couple Atlassian tools. We used Jira for tracking project tasks and overall project planning. This was especially important because we were all remote, and so to make sure that everybody knew what was going on and there was always a clear picture of what was happening, we tried to use Jira for that, and we were pretty successful. We also used Confluence, which is basically wiki software, and over the summer it became a huge data repository, a knowledge repository of all the different things, blockchain prototype related, whether it was setting up development environments, troubleshooting common issues that come up, and as I kind of mentioned earlier, basically kind of anything where there was a gap in the documentation where it didn't quite cover what actually happens in practice, we have an article for that. And finally, we used Red Hat OpenShift. OpenShift is basically a Kubernetes platform that we use to deploy out our prototype application, basically, and it's also sort of core to the IBM blockchain platform, which runs on that. And so these were the tools that we used. And in addition, which is not on here, but we were heavily using Microsoft Teams. This was every day we were having stand-ups. Anytime there was questions, we were shooting off, chats into the chat room, that kind of stuff. And that's how we kind of tried to stay on the same page. Whereas normally if we were in the office, I'd turn around and be like, hey, what's up with this? Or, how are you doing? That kind of stuff. But without the in-person, without having the ability to be in person, we had to rely on our tools a lot for communication and collaboration. So the cybersecurity project. The main objective of this project was to perform a vulnerability assessment of the ESS corporate network. This is something that hadn't been completed during my tenure as IT manager, but it was definitely something that I wanted to do. I just, not enough time in the day kind of thing. And so we were very lucky to have the interns and who could help me out with that. Another reason why this was useful is one of the upcoming changes for defense contractors is that they must meet certain cybersecurity requirements and pass an audit by a third party in order to continue doing business with the federal government. And so the idea was to get ahead of the curve a little bit by assessing what our security looks like now. And so that I would have something to work off of before this deadline, which is, I guess, pushed into next year, comes up. The next goal of the project was to familiarize the interns with the types of attacks and techniques that attackers use. We took advantage of tons of available resources to practice penetration testing and other red team tactics, as well as CTFs, capture the flags. And the thinking behind this was one of the best ways to stop a hacker in his tracks is to think like one. And for this project, the final deliverable was a report containing the results of the vulnerability assessment and to include mitigations to the vulnerabilities where it makes sense. This final report is what I used as a basis to make lots of changes to the ESS network in order to keep our company data safe. A big portion of this project was teaching and learning about different hacking techniques, that kind of stuff. And defensive security. So one of the things we relied on was training material associated with a couple different certifications. The CompTIA Security Plus certification was definitely very important. Additionally, we relied on the Certified Ethical Hacker certification. And most of this learning material for this, we have a corporate learning tool called Percipio, which we call ESS University internally. And so we had the interns go through these course materials and to pick out different videos or reading material, that kind of stuff that would make sense to look into from assessing a corporate network vulnerability standpoint. As far as Security Plus goes, we also had one of our interns, Shelby. She had prior experience studying for the Security Plus exam. And so as part of the ESS internship, we sponsored a certification exam voucher for her. And she was able to successfully pass and received her certification as part of the internship. So super awesome job, Shelby. We're really proud of you for that. We also used materials from HackerOne's Hacker 101 learning program. HackerOne's, you might be familiar with it. They're very popular for having bug bounty programs where people can submit bugs they find in applications and do it in a way that is kind of follows some standards and some rules where regarding disclosure. And they've developed this really cool, like, let's get started, learn to hack program, and provides tons of different resources that you can play with. We also performed as a team the PICO CTF, which is a CTF developed by the Carnegie Mellon University. And it covers a whole bunch of different common hacking techniques and just, it teaches you how to think about, how to think about hacking and what to look for in systems when you're looking for vulnerabilities. For this project, the tools that we relied on, the one we relied on the most was Kali Linux. It's a specialized Linux distro that has been developed for hackers, pen testers, security professionals, those kinds of people. It comes bundled with over 600 tools to perform, network analysis or exploitation or penetration, those types of attacks. And out of the box, you can have over 600 tools. And so the idea was to start exploring what tools are out there, what they do, and which tool is useful for this kind of thing. One of the other, out of those 600 tools, I would say the one that we definitely found the most use of was with Wireshark. Um, it's a packet capture tool, and it provides a visual interface that lets you see all of the network traffic and filter it out, filter it down to find maybe things you're specifically looking for, that kind of stuff. For vulnerability scans, we experimented with a few different vulnerability scanners. There are open source ones, there are paid ones, that kind of stuff. And so we tried to get play with as many as possible. However, for the final vulnerability scan that we ran against the ESS corporate network, we relied on Tenable's Nessus and Rapid7's Nexpose and use those tools to generate the vulnerability reports. And while not a tool per se, we relied on the MITRE ATT&CK framework, which is a framework that covers common attacks and adversary techniques that people see in enterprise environments. And so this framework covers and provides lots of detailed information on different types of attacks, things you can do for reconnaissance. And so this was introduced to the interns to help them, to inspire them to try different attacks and different techniques when they were starting to play with attacking our corporate network. So those were the projects. The summer went really well, and everybody was able to meet all of the goals that we had set in the beginning. And so at the end of the summer, we had a presentation day where each of the interns gave a presentation to the ESS executive team, and some of the feedback that the company received, or the internship program received, you can see here. From Eric, ESS provided a challenging learning environment to help me grow as a software engineer. And another quote that I didn't put up here from Eric, but that was that really stood out to me, was that he said he learned more this summer than he did in an entire semester of college. And that specific feedback is exactly, the type of thing that I was looking to hear. That that's the kind of experience that we want you to have as an intern at ESS. Jenna said, the internship opened my eyes, saw the different things other than just the small bubble of just coding. Alex says, ESS made sure we had everything we needed to succeed. And Shelby says, really liked the experience of working on a team in a field that I would really love to go into. So this is definitely all good feedback, and what we take back into our notes when we're evaluating how the internship program did. From the perspective of the interns, they all said that the internship met and or exceeded expectations, and that it was a really good experience overall, and they would definitely recommend it. So what to look forward to in the summer of 2021? Well, first we want to expand upon our successes. There was a lot of things we did well, and as you saw on the last slide, that we provided challenging projects where the students got to learn quite a bit, and so we want to keep doing that. But we also want to find new ways to engage the students, where we can have where they can have more opportunities to sort of make their stamp on the company. But not everything was roses and rainbows, and so there were some areas where we struggled, specifically with leading the teams virtually. There was definitely a learning curve there, as I mentioned earlier, and so going forward, we've identified areas where we can improve, and if not, the program is virtual in 2021. We want to be ready and totally attack. Be ready for both in-person team leads and if we need to do it remotely. And we're going to keep pushing the envelope. ESS is dedicated to innovation and mining the latest in tech to solve hard problems and bring winning solutions to our customers. So are you interested in joining us in 2021? So if you are, get in touch, or if you know someone who is, get in touch with us, the internship program team, by emailing us at internshipprogram@exceptionalsoftware.com, or you can email me directly at joseph.broussard@exceptionalsoftware.com. So that's all I have for the presentation today. I'll be happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
Well, thank you, JD. That was all very, very interesting. One thing I was thinking we should talk about is maybe some ideas we have for the 2021 internship program as far as projects go. So I
Sure.
figure we can we'll probably look at doing some more with blockchain and maybe extending the projects that we did last summer. But I think we can also look at geospatial. All right, so we've got ideas for GIS research projects, especially around 3D geospatial interfaces, and maybe into using VR, like the Oculus Rift within geospatial solutions. And maybe we'll look into AI as well. I mean, we had the last couple webinars, we had Randy Breeden talking to us about deep fakes. So maybe what we'll do is see if Randy can work up a AI or machine learning or deep fake project for some interns as well.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know if you had any ideas yourself.
No, I mean, the idea is to continue, is to kind of continue what we've been working on. As other people seen in the tech exchanges, ESS has a lot of different areas we cover. And the idea is to continue to apply interns to those, to those efforts where it makes sense. And as far as AI goes, I think that's something that we should definitely be taking a look at this summer with the interns.
All right, well, let's see. We have one question. Are the projects preset or created based on the interns in the program, or a combination of both?
It's a bit of a combination of both. We do have efforts that we're working on, and so if it makes sense to apply the interns to those efforts, then we will. But we also give ourselves enough time, a few months to, let's say somebody's background is not necessarily a good match for blockchain or whatever it is, then but we want to try something new, kind of thing. We'll create a project for the intern based on the interns, based on what their skill set is.
Yeah, I think for the 2020 prep, we had come up with 2 or 3 ideas, and then we waited to see what the interns thought of those, and then we assigned them to the projects. So yeah, it's a little bit of both. Let's see, the next question is, would you recommend an internship to a high school student? Especially if they believe they want to go into the IT field and want to learn firsthand if it is what they want to pursue.
So my feeling is that generally we want to have college students who've had a year in their major. That's not to say that not all experience is created equal. Some high school students really do get really deep into computer science or whatever it is. And so to answer your question, it depends. But I would definitely say we prefer to have college or university students.
Yeah, I think we would take any applications, even from seniors in high school, if they so wanted to apply and have the chance of getting an internship. But you're right, we would need to take a look at what they've been doing and how deep into probably computer science that they've been and what they're interested in pursuing. All right, well, those were the 2 questions we had, and we're about 2:45, so that's a good time. I think we'll call it an end to the webinar there. Thank you, JD, for giving us the presentation on the internship program.
Yep, thank you, Bill.
Yeah. And then for everybody else, we will hopefully see you in 2 weeks for the 3D GIS webinar. Thank you, guys. Everybody take care.